Watch Russman's going to call me right now. We're live.
Boom.
Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. We're live today with Ryan Bloum. Trey is with us, PPG Flyer. We got Phil Russman. He's working out the kinks on the sound.
Paraglidingtalk.com.
We're going to have a great show tonight. We've got some interesting things to talk about. These guys just recently broke a record here, a local record, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to look at some of that flying footage, and then we're also going to just kind of dive deep in and find out some theory, learn about some free flight paragliding. Ryan is a free flight master, in my opinion. I've watched him fly many of different things. I'm breeding Texas and doing all 20 different things. I've watched him fly at Blossom, do some maneuvers that I was like, oh gosh, if I tried that, I would probably die. And just makes it look so smooth. Cross countries like a madman. We're going to have a great time tonight. I'm stoked. Want to encourage you to go to paraglidingtalk.com to check out all the future shows that are going to be coming up. Also, you can go back and look at some of the old ones. You're back?
I'm back. My power, see, it just went out again.
Oh, wow.
So I connected to my phone hotspot, so we'll be good if you guys can hear me.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so again, glad you're here. My name is Robert Michaels. Welcome to the show. So we're going to interview Ryan as long as we can, and we're going to glean as much info from him as we can. I want to start off by asking a little bit about your history in flying. You shared with me something when we first started talking about the show, and you mentioned that you had made a hang glider, and this was at a pretty young age, and I want you to tell me about how that transpired and how you got into it.
Yeah. So basically since before I can remember, I'd always been really into the idea of flying, like even jumping on trampolines and jumping off pools. I'd always be like, wow, this would be crazy if I could extend this, you know? And so I think I first saw hang gliding in a movie or something and thought that's it. That's exactly what I want to do. And at that time I was like 10 and I had been flying RC planes since I was little, and I'd been playing with paper airplanes and all that stuff. And there was a project that had nothing to do with making something that I ended up turning into, oh, I'm going to make a hang glider for this project with a friend. And we ended up building a hang glider out of PVC pipe and tarp, and we screwed the tarp down on the hang glider, and all the threads were coming out the bottom of the delta. It was like pretty much it looked like you were flying underneath a mouth with teeth coming down. It was like the deadliest thing ever. And it was too small, and the CG was in the wrong spot. And I put on a bunch of motorcycle gear and tried to fly it off anything. And we tried to fly it down little hills and ate shit every time. And finally figured out, okay, I need to like get a bunch of energy and then push out. So that was my thought. And that time I got up pretty high, like 15 feet in the air. And then my ghetto harness that held me to my hang glider did not work. It was the bridle of a horse. That's what it was. I put my legs through a horse bridle to use as a harness. Whatever I was attached to the hang glider with broke. So I came out the bottom like this and the hang glider flew away. And all I remember is just falling, watching the hang glider go away. And I landed on my back on the ice plant hill and was fine. But my parents ended up seeing the footage from like a little flip phone or something. And we're like, you're going to kill yourself. Like, this is insane. So they took me to the glider port for my birthday when I was 12, and I did a tandem. And then the whole time I was like working out deals with Robin. It was Robin. And I was like, Robin, how do I get you to convince my parents that I need to sign up for lessons? How do we get this done? Is this legal? Can I legally do this at 12? And then when I landed, it was kind of like, right into the office. And somehow, still to this day, I wonder why my parents let me go flying every single day after school, but they did. And that's kind of where it started.
Okay, so at 12 years old, you were already flying, or at what age were you flying paragliders by yourself?
12.
Wow. So at 12 years old, you worked with instructors at Torrey Pines, got everything dialed in, and at what point were you like, okay, I'm ready for this, I'm gonna fly? A week of training?
No, I did. I had like 3 days of ground handling, and by the end of the third day, it happened to be a really good 3 days. It was probably like straight in at 10, so ideal. And by the end of the third day, it was like felt really comfortable on the ground and super confident, and I could kite on my back, and I was like, I get it. And then I think the third or fourth day, I took my first flight and had one of those like, oh shit moments in the air, and froze up, and was like, and my instructor's like, get in your harness. And I had been kiting in a kiting harness this whole time, and then got in a flying harness. Couldn't get in my harness. I was flying out. It was not a good first flight. Landed on the beach. And then after that, I don't remember. The rest was kind of just like flying, you know?
Okay, so you've been in the sport for a while. How old are you now?
24, so 12 years.
12 years, which I was saying to Stephen Nowak, that because he's been flying for some like 13 years, I said, and dog years, that's very old. That's a lot of paragliding. And so you've got just an incredible amount of experience. And again, I've watched your flying. I've watched some of your videos. I've flown with you a couple times. I don't know if you know that or not, because there's always like a big old
I see you up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we laugh and we watch, and we're like, there goes Ryan. He's going cross country. Phil Russman, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, good. Okay, that's working.
Yeah. Yes. Just the man I wanted on the show.
Yes. Oh, hey, let me show you mine.
Yeah. Let me see. I want to see.
This is me. Can you guys see? But that's like my first day of hang gliding right there.
Phil, I swear you were making the same face on our last flight.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't know Phil is on the paragliding, the Powered Paragliding Bible. His picture is literally on there. He's got a bunch of commentary in there. Phil, where did you get that wing?
That was all they had back there. That was state of the art back then. That was like, how old are you? How many?
It's like a Photoshop.
I'm 38.
Yeah, long before you were born.
I knew you were gonna say that, Phil. Yeah, I love you, Phil. You make me feel so young.
Make me feel so old.
Oh man, that was real. How come you never showed that picture to us before?
Well,
it's epic.
Just never came up, hang gliding the early years.
So these two recently made an incredible cross-country flight from Little Black. And if you'll kind of, let's just dive right in. I want to hear about this. I've already watched the video. I'm going to try to pull that up while you're talking. Incredible. Okay, so I'll just say this. They flew from San Diego to Hemet, California. It's like 80 miles. So anyways, go ahead and either one of you can start. I'm interested to hear.
Do it, Ryan.
Okay, I'll take us through the beginning. So let's see. The day was good thermal wise, but it was really windy, and Phil launched first. Phil, you were flying around for a while and just getting he was making it look horrible. He was making it look like the last.
Yeah, I was making a sacrifice. Basically, I flew around and struggled. I said, this sucks. I'm going to land. And right when I landed, then Ryan said, all right, let me give it a try. And it instantly zoomed up into the air. And I launched about a minute later and tried to catch him. And he got a thermal that I couldn't quite grab, but he got up to basically leaving Little Black altitude, and about what 5-10 minutes later, I caught up with you.
I was drifting downwind, not really leaving, and then you climbed up. And by the time you got up, I was east of the 15, and I turned around and we met up again. And then from there, there was a convergence over the 15 that was pretty buoyant. And so we flew through that together, kind of climbing in a straight line. And then remember when we fell out of it, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I think we're falling out of a convergence, because the air was just shit. It was complete shit it was really bad until we got it was really bad until we got to Iron Mountain. And then at Iron Mountain again, we hit kind of a second convergence, or an area that was really releasing well. And Phil, you were low at that time. So I was hanging out waiting, and it just worked really well. That beginning section was more or less big convergence thermal climbs than kind of small little thermals. So we kind of stayed in an area, we're able to get really high, and then we crossed to Palomar, and that was a little low. That was a little kind of pushing it, that section for sure. Oh, here we go. I think this is me turning back for Phil. But the day was great, and flying together was really fun, because we got to use each other as kind of a cue to, you know, whether or not 300 yards to the left is a better line than where I am, or vice versa.
Yeah, the key to what we were doing was basically team flying. And it's a technique that requires some knowledge and some understanding and some cooperation and the willingness to do it. And if you do it, you can actually fly further and faster if you know what you're doing. And it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's way more fun, and the retrieve is half the cost. Yeah.
So you guys are flying. At some point, I talked to Phil right afterwards, because I heard somebody was breaking records, and I want to know. And so Phil tells me that they flew all the way to Hemet, and I'm listening to the conversation, and he tells me something in passing that Ryan's radio didn't work, and I'm like, no, or you didn't have it. What? So take us through that for a second.
What had happened is I showed up with a radio that I thought was charged, and it wasn't charged. And then in the parking lot, Phil, it goes, oh, I got an extra battery for you. So I take Phil's extra battery, and I fly for 20 minutes. And the first communication that Phil gives as a radio check to me, I try to broadcast back, and it doesn't have enough charge to broadcast back. I can only hear. So the first 35 or 40 minutes of the flight, I'm just listening to Phil, trying to give him signals like I understand or I got it. And then sure enough, 35 minutes into the flight, my radio died completely. So we were screaming at each other for the rest of it.
Literally screaming across, the air.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go this way. Okay. And
yeah.
We're going to break a record. Yeah. Let's keep going. I laugh. Now, for the record, I've flown with Phil from Little Black. We did a tiny little cross country, and it wasn't a great day. We probably could have went farther. I blame it on Tony Boyer for making us wait for him. And he's going to be so mad when he watches this.
Tony, if you're listening.
So, Phil, he doesn't care. He could fly with no hands, in a thermal going 1,000 feet per minute. But, I'm focused. My eyes are really wide like this. I'm probably too deep in the brakes. I'm just the whole time analyzing every second. And Phil, he'll fly by you, touch your wing, tell you, you're doing good, and keep on flying, And so I'm watching your video and I'm like, yes, this is epic. So, okay, take me through some of this. You get to the place where you're like, okay, we know we're coming up on airspace. We're going to get to the place now where we're going to hit this range. And I understand the range, but maybe talk some of the guys through your decision-making and what you're looking for when you're going on a cross country, and the planning that's involved.
Okay.
Ryan?
Well, first, like typically, I'll look at the terrain, and then I'll kind of look at the sun angle and the wind direction, and those are kind of like my three factors. And the airspace thing comes fourth, which should probably be maybe first or second. But if I'm, that's kind of the idea if I'm looking to go far. And then a lot of times, if I'm up above the terrain, I'll kind of just try and fly the air more than anything below me. And that depends on the day. Some days, like features that should work aren't working, and features, that shouldn't work are working. So those are kind of the days when you're flying the air more than the ground. And then some days are really straightforward, and it's like a face in the sun that faces the wind is generating thermals that are consistent.
So you guys take off from Little Black, you head straight to Twin Peaks, or did you bypass Twin Peaks? Didn't seem like you guys even needed Twin Peaks.
We bypassed Twin Peaks. We glided right over it, and I think we were still climbing at that time. We were kind of just straight line cruising and climbing, and that worked that time. But a lot of times you don't get that lift line that we had there, and you end up sinking out right to Twin Peaks, and then you got to work it back up.
That's exactly what happened with me. With now we got a question. Carl had asked about the SKU-T and was wondering if you took a peek at those before you decide you're going to go XC. What do you use for weather prediction?
I don't use the SKU-T. Phil, you use what's it called again?
XC score.
XC Skies.
XC Skies is really a fantastic weather reporting system. It's about $35 a year, which is absolutely completely worth it. Chris Galley is the creator of that. And if you're into paragliding, you really need to spend the $35 and start learning how to use it.
I feel like you're talking to me about that one.
Yeah, you do.
That was directed at me. No, I don't use it, but I think that's the best one to use. I like to use Windy TY a lot. That's my favorite to just get an idea. And then I'll go from surface level and try and find a convergence, and then go up through the altitude. And you can tell if the convergence might be something that's shifting east or west, depending on what the wind's doing at altitude. And then I like to use TAD soaring predictor, which I don't know if you can use that other places. I like that. Yeah, for Southern California and Northern California, it's great. And then the wind grams as well. But the SKU-T, that's something I've kind of been working on, but I don't know if it's something that we really need to use as much as maybe we did in the past, because with the new models and stuff, I feel like you can get all that information easier, even though it might not be the weather, the balloon release and the kind of accurate real time.
If you guys are wondering, by the way, about Windy, it is free. And I heard on Gavin McClurg's Cloud-Based Mayhem, he interviewed a guy, and they were talking about the guy who put together windy.com and created that whole thing. He spent a fortune and continues to spend a fortune on that model. So if you're wondering if that's because it's free that it sucks, not even the case at all. This is a guy who is very passionate about paragliding and all things flying, and doled out the money to make that happen. Now, as far as XC Skies goes, it is incredibly detailed. And so what Phil was talking about is that it takes some time to learn. I'm at the very beginning stage of learning that. And, but it's great because it'll tell you what's going to happen in the future. It's going to give you like a really accurate predictions. And so it is definitely
a screenshot so that you can put that up.
Yeah, I got you. You just texted to me, and I'm wanna.
Well, I actually I sent you a screenshot of our tracks so that you can put that up while we're talking about the flight. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a screenshot of XC Skies.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea, and maybe we'll put a link in the description at the end too. Exactly. Yeah. So
I'm going to put up the prediction for tomorrow for the San Diego area.
Nice. So Ryan, your parents were like, okay, he's going to kill himself anyways with this, let's invest in this. I mean, you're 12 years old. My son, by the way, I hope he's just doing his homework and not paying attention to this. He wants to fly really bad. So we're at Torrey Pines last weekend. He's folding people's wings for tips. He's already done a tandem. He's fired up about flying, and I think he's going to do it, sooner than later. How much did you weigh, and were there some hurdles there with your size and all those things?
I think I was probably clipping in at like 68 kilos or something crazy light at the time, but it wasn't a problem because I flew a small and I flew it in the middle of the weight range, and it was okay. The only time it became an issue was being a little kid landing at Black's Beach and folding my gear up. And it happened multiple times. I'd have these people like trying to carry my gear, offer to carry my gear, and they'd follow me like all the way up to the glider port. And I would be like, this is so weird. And that doesn't happen anymore, but it happened when I was a kid.
Oh gosh.
And then when you get old like me, people feel sorry for you and they carry your gear.
Comes back around.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. I swear the first time I landed down there, I didn't believe it. I thought it was a joke. Like, I didn't think there was a nude beach right there. Straight up, man. Nude beach and just a bunch of old flabbies. What's that?
Straight up, figuratively and literally.
Yeah. Oh man, something wrong with people, bro.
Yeah.
I was flying the other day. It was on Monday, and there was a couple. They were like taking their little family picture with each other in the buff right there in the sunset. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ryan, now you're at the place where you've got 12 years under your belt. You're flying a very competitive wing. You've flown in some competitions. Let's talk about that a little bit. What have you literally signed into competitions and flown in them to compete? And maybe talk about that for some of the guys that are watching that want to get into competition.
Well, there's not a lot that goes on around here, like in terms of competition. And there's not a big group of people that, at least compared to the rest of the world, there's not a big group of people that fly competitively a lot. So it was kind of like this thing that was kind of out there, and I knew people were doing it. And obviously you can watch PWC videos and around the world, there's a group of people that do it a lot and are really good, but here there's not that many. And so I think for years and years and years, I would fly kind of imitating these people who I thought were really good, or pilots who I looked up to. And that's kind of the kind of flying I was into, is cross country and kind of fast cross country. And so I would fly like them or try and fly like them. And then when I got better and started flying in the mountains a lot more, I would kind of continue that and try and kind of fly competitively, even though I'm by myself, in a sense, like trying to fly as efficient as I could. And then the first race I went to was the rat race last year. And I think by that time I was more than ready to fly in a race. And I think you can look at it both ways. It's either like, oh, you've done all this preparation and you're really ready to do it, or you go there as a beginner. And they had like amazing classes for people who had never flown competition and people who weren't very advanced pilots to begin with, to kind of get involved and kind of start more so flying cross country than racing each other, And so that was last year. That was my first race. And I did pretty well. I flew a glider that wasn't very competitive against, the racing gliders. I ended up finishing 20th, I think. But it was really cool because the things I like to do the most, like Phil knows, is fly cross country with people. And when you're racing, you're flying cross country with 150 people, and you might not know the people, but then after 2 days of competing, you kind of realize where you sit in the group and who you're going to be flying with most. So you familiarize yourself with people and their gliders, and you're like, oh, I've flown with this guy for 3 days, yet I don't know who he is. And we spent 5 hours a day flying next to each other. and then you meet them at the end of, like, you know, whatever, the fourth day, and it's cool. It's a great way to meet other pilots who like to fly a lot, and I feel like after 7 days of flying, you get really dialed.
So this is Valle de Bravo?
Yeah, that's Valle. That was the last day in Valle, and it was amazing. Cloud base was at 12,000, and the big main cloud was directly over the start cylinder, so we all just thermaled up underneath it we hung out for like 45 minutes before the start of the race, just all at cloud base after 7 days or 6 days of flying.
My word.
That's amazing, man. Amazing pictures.
You're right at the point of oh, by the way, were you flying the King at the rat race?
No, at the rat race I was flying a Little Cloud Gyps, which is a great glider, but not for full-on racing. And then the King I flew in Valle, which is also a great glider, but it's tough to compete against two-liners when you're flying like full bar the whole time, because they have a bit of an advantage in transition. So it was still amazing though, and that glider kind of gave me a little bit easier time than the Little Cloud at the rat race, so that was fun. And then the conditions were just epic, probably some of the best flying I've ever had.
Incredible. I heard this last rat race that there was a couple guys that came under reserve. Did you see any of that?
Oh yeah, it was like the first 2 days was kind of shocking, because I saw like 3 people come down on reserves, and then after that it was kind of like, we got another person on reserve, and you're back at it. You know what I mean? It was just, there was like 3 or 4 a day, it seemed like.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Why do you think that was? And what causes guys to end up on a reserve? And Phil, you're welcome to chime in at any time too.
Super simple answer, I think, maybe too simple, is that you're doing things you would not normally do if you were flying for fun, or if you were just free flying. You know, if you're flying a task and you need to get from point A to point B, but between that there's a huge mountain and you're not getting that high and you're in lee, you wouldn't really push into that if you were just flying for fun. But if you're flying a competition and you're trying to, you know, make it there, or you see other people there, then that's kind of how you get yourself in a pickle.
What do you say, Russman?
Exactly that. You push yourself further than you normally would. You know, Clint Eastwood said, "A man's got to know his limitations."
There it is.
You gotta fly within those, and you know, build your experience. And I think that most people have a meter, a limitation meter, that's fairly accurate, and they start ignoring that when they see glory in the possibility of trying to move ahead in a competition. But it's not really worth it, because, you know, at best you're gonna have to you know, pull your gear out of a tree and have your reserve repacked, and, you know, get home really late, hopefully in one piece, and at worst it could be a lot worse. So best to just approach competitions without an agenda, as Bill Belcourt says, and just pick up experience and fly your best within your little limit meter. That's that little voice in the back of your head going, you know, I think that looked like a pretty bad area to fly into. I would just get off the speed bar right now.
Flying into the lee with a 2-liner.
Full speed bar.
Full speed bar.
Yeah. For 7 days.
For 7 days. Let's just push it. Let's just see. Woo!
But competitions are a very good way to learn a lot, because you're flying with other people, and you learn a lot by flying with other people. You learn how to fly with other people, and you learn about yourself. You learn about your equipment. You push yourself, but not too hard. So competitions are a great learning tool. I don't think that you should necessarily feel like you have to do competition after competition after competition. However, I think that some exposure to that can be an important part of your learning experience.
let's talk about safety and training. Do you consider SIVs, and have you taken one or many? And what do you think about them?
Yeah, I think I've done about 6. I think I've done 6, and I think early on they were huge in me kind of getting better quicker and feeling confident under my glider and feeling like I could fly in conditions that were rough and fly the glider and not worry about what might happen if the glider stops flying, kind of thing. But recently I haven't done that many mostly because of the gliders I'm flying too, which is not a good excuse. But before I was flying a lot of acro gliders, so I'd go to the SIVs to practice acro, and now I'm flying a lot of cross country gliders. So I kind of fly cross country on them. And then if at the end of the day I have enough height, I like to do a bunch of stalls and spins and big pitch oscillations and that kind of thing, just to stay fresh, you know?
Which is not necessarily recommended to go and do that over land, right?
Okay, I think early on in your training, yes, it's not recommended. But I think once you get better, I think it's a really good way to stay sharp and to stay fresh and to be, especially if you're changing gliders a lot, you know?
Know your glider.
Yeah, there's a risk to it, but there's also a big reward.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
So now you've flown quite a bit. Who inspires you now? Who do you chase after, and who are you learning from?
Oh man, Kriegel for sure. Kriegel Maurer, he's the man. I'd say there's a lot of guys who fly. Kriegel doesn't compete in the World Cup right now, but he's kind of like he's like the Kelly Slater of paragliding, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of, and even flying the competitions like in Valle, there were so many really good pilots, and at the rat race, and flying with all those guys who, you know, might even be guys from the States who you didn't even know lived, you know, around you, and they kill it and they fly really well. So I think it's always changing. And I don't know, I'd say definitely Kriegel and some other top pilots, PWC pilots.
So recently, when we're talking about that flight that you guys did, you guys broke the record from Little Black to Hemet. Now, there was some questions about airspace in there. Did you guys confirm whether or not that you guys crossed airspace? And for the technical aspect of it, did you guys end up, did it go down in the books as a legal record, or did it get shot down?
I'm going to let Phil answer this one.
Yeah, Phil.
Well, when you look at it when you look at the track, or when you look at my track, I don't have Ryan's track, but when you look at my track, I clipped the edge of the Ramona airspace by like about two little thermal turns. So if you want to use that, that would basically say, okay, yeah, he was in airspace, the Class D there. But other than that, it was looking pretty good. And of course, we all fly over congested areas, so pretty much most paraglider cross-country flights are technically illegal because of that. But we kind of overlooked that aspect of it and just kind of focus on the airspace because it's
and going into that flight, and even by the time we landed, the whole time was kind of more, let's just see how far we can make this go. Not like, are we going to make the record? We didn't even know when
we were not thinking about the record at all. We were just having so much fun. And basically, at the end, after we left Palomar for like the last third of the flight, we were just like, I can't believe we're still in the air. And we were really glad that we were low because we were frozen. My hands were like ice blocks.
Coldest I've been flying.
Actually, we could have gone quite a bit further if we'd have thermaled up and topped up over Palomar and flown to Palm Springs. I think we could have done that. But we were absolutely frozen.
We left the climbs because I just couldn't do it anymore. It was to the point where I was like, I am going to need to land because my hands feel like they're on fire because they're so cold.
I thought I was going to have to go to the ER
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought
now,
I was
for the
going to be
record,
carrying Phil to the hospital and not have black hands.
that wouldn't have been so bad. Feels pretty light. You guys are flying at 7,000 feet. It was like 22 degrees.
And over Palomar, we got to 83 before Ryan just said, you know, he just flew away. And we were in a thermal. He just flew away, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I better follow him.
And so you guys are at Palomar. You could have landed at Palomar, but you're like, this is no, I'm freezing to death, and this hurts.
Like, yeah, that only happens so many times that it just lines up that good, and we were in that position at that time of day, and it was like, I'll fly without hands for the rest of this flight if we can just not land.
Just keep rolling.
Yeah.
I mean, from Palomar to Hemet, that's still distance.
Well, it was the farthest anybody had ever flown from Little Black that day. Recently, somebody flew a little bit further about a week later, but we had the record for a little while anyway.
Yeah. We've been, that happened to us too from Elsinore, right? We had the record for 10 minutes until Cote landed.
That's right.
But we managed to do it together, and that's what counts, right?
It's very fun, and this whole team flying, I think you could do a whole podcast on the intricacies of team flying, because it really is a lot of fun. And there are some things that we're discovering that are, I think, important to share with everybody, and to get people doing it and trying it and finding other people that like to do it.
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, and I've heard it on Gavin's podcast, you know, in multiple different shows where he's talking about flying in pairs and taking it to that next level, because when you're flying with somebody, I mean, PPG world, we can talk. I mean, Trey, you know, it's like a whole different ball game when you have someone else there. Like especially if you know you're going to a meetup or something, someone else is going to be there. If you go down, something happens with your wing, or like you said at the end, these guys had a goober and Uber at the end of their flight, and from Hemet all the way back to their cars at Little Black, I forgot how much it was, like $95.
93.
Yeah. That is so awesome.
We called the Uber the second we landed, and Phil didn't even have enough time to pack his gear before the guy showed up, and we were out of there.
And he didn't land. That was in the middle of nowhere. I looked at the track, and by the way, Phil gave me the track to show, and my computer will not accept my AirDrop, and so I can't show these videos. You can do it, Phil. I don't know how to.
What about putting it in the message thing, or using the system here?
Yeah, so you can click on the little green box on the screen share, and so if you have it on your computer, you can just screen share what you have.
Okay. All right. First, let me close your porn here.
Yeah, don't put any porn on here. Oh, Russman, I can't take you anywhere.
Screens.
Just put it on one of the other screen, and then when you click on the screen share, it'll show.
Oh, I see.
Okay, well, sharing.
Let's do that.
There you go.
That's nice.
Okay. So this is the. Here, let's just do a top-down view here real quick, and so you can see what that looks like. I'll do north up.
See, Phil, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm looking at where we took the line, and we followed Palomar north, where we should have just kept going east.
That's right.
There's that big hook in our track that was unnecessary.
Is that showing up okay?
Yeah, I can see the track good enough.
As long as you're talking, it keeps your screen on.
Okay. So here's where we were at Palomar. I'm just going to zoom right in on Palomar here. Stand by just one split second. This is Palomar. Okay, that big mountain there. We got this nice climb right here, and then we started to go right here a little bit higher, and then Ryan just said, "That's enough. Let's just fly right down the ridge," which we did, and we just lost a lot of altitude. But what we could have done is gone out this way,
right
out that way, over or basically over to this guy over here, and then on to Palm Springs. And then we would be in really good shape in Palm Springs. But we got too cold, and so we went, I'm just going to reorient this here. And you can see we went right down the ridge, and we caught a couple of turns, but we were just losing altitude all the way. And then we went out over the flats. Here, I'll just give you another perspective on that, what that looks like. You can see how we're just kind of flying over these little flats, getting little climbs, really little climbs here. And then we got a really long, some long climbs, but these were really slow. Look at all those circles. Can you see that?
That was like 140 feet per minute. Just
8 million circles. It was just really crazy how and then we went on the death glide to what I thought was going to be our savior, this ridge over here, okay, right here. But it just wasn't good. Ryan hooked it just a little bit higher, and then we landed right here in this little spot right here, right on that road, right there.
And that's the dirt road where the Uber came and picked us up.
That's right.
Nice.
That's right. And as you can see, we were just shy of Hemet and Saboba right here. You can see that, right? Does that show up on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay?
And looking at this again, it's like we had 2 more opportunities, Phil, after Palomar, those slow climbs, to move the way those climbs were tracking, which is east, not north.
I'm going to reorient so that we can discuss what you were saying. But yes, they were well, let me these were heading straight east. Okay, so we could have just head straight east into this area here where there's no roads, and we'd probably still be walking. But you know, sometimes you gotta try that kind of stuff. I'm trying to orient this so that it makes a little bit more sense here, but that's the direction. We're looking east right now, and over here is Palm Springs. And so if we could have gotten up onto this terrain, it's pretty late though, but we might have had a shot.
Okay, so by the way, these guys are flying in February, doing this massive XC, in my opinion. February, for the most part, here is not that epic. So it was a feat what they were able to pull off. I know Phil has done XC from what was it, from Palomar to all the way to
the day we flew from Palomar to Palm Springs, it was actually a very, very easy, relaxing, very, very easy flight. I'll do north up again and just show you what that looks like. And in fact, what I can do is is this working for you guys? Can you see this? Okay, so here's from Palomar to Palm Springs, and that is about right there. That's about 41 miles. Just that, 41 miles. And once you get to this spot right here, which is only 28 miles away, then it's just a glide into Palm Springs. If you can get over this terrain over here, then you basically from there just glide right into Palm Springs.
incredible. So Ryan, you've got some pretty epic days under your belt, and one of the common questions I'll get or that I'll ask is maybe talk about one of your most epic days and of flying, and maybe that was one of them. What would you say is the most memorable and most epic?
It's hard because there's been so many epic days, and before I had a GoPro, I'd have these insanely awesome flights, and I didn't have any track. I didn't have a Vario or any tracking mechanism. So they kind of vanish. It's kind of like this amazing flight and crazy moments that were 12 years ago that I don't really remember. I was a little kid, you know, and now I want to say flights like that last one with Phil, like that was epic. That was like as good as it gets minus our hands freezing off. And you know, it's probably going to school in Boulder was really cool because I'd gone there for a year and a half before I had a really epic flight there, and then my next semester I changed my classes up so I could pretty much have free time during the peak time of the day that was like, you know, fly time. And I ended up having some really big cross countries out of there and was able to fly like over my school and back. And those were cool because it's different. Having grown up here in San Diego and flying here for 12 years and then going there was a total change of scenery, which was super memorable. But I don't know, Elsinore cross countries, Phil, you've got to be in my top 5 list like 3 times of my most epic flights.
Yeah, it's been great. I really appreciate you dragging me along.
Oh, I wish I had the link of the last time we went to Elsinore, Phil rescued a whole flock of baby ducks off the side of the street. That's a really good video link.
He's running
that up.
He's shooing them off the road.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh no, you were catching them?
Well, there were a mama duck and about 10 little ducklings, and they were in the middle of the road, and cars were stopping everywhere, and so I got out of the car and I was trying to shoo them, and I was going back and forth. You have to see the video. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
It's going to go viral.
Yeah.
So Ryan, one of the questions in the comment section was, have you ever tried a motor?
Yeah, I actually bought a motor. I don't remember. I think it was a Paratoys something, if I'm correct. And I flew it 2 times, and then I've launched out of my property and was climbing out over the 5. And it had I'm pretty sure they all do have, correct me if I'm wrong, they have a centrifugal clutch. Well, something happened with the clutch and it broke basically inside of the clutch plate, and my motor stopped working. And I had enough height. I turned around and glided home and landed. And then it was like, I couldn't get a replacement part, and the company stopped making the parts. And so that kind of fizzled out, even though I wasn't done. Like, I really wanted to have my motor and keep flying it, but yeah.
All right. Good story.
So wait, you never got it fixed?
No, I didn't get it fixed. Tori was cool enough to kind of hook me up with some credit because they knew that wasn't cool, that I just bought it and the thing blew up and they didn't have parts to fix it. The company stopped making parts. So it never got fixed. And I kind of have made a mental note that maybe I'll get another paramotor when a nice electric company starts making them, you know, electric ones that aren't crazy expensive. But yeah.
That's pretty cool thought that's coming. I mean, they're out there. They're making
they're
them.
out there now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is pretty cool.
So
I like
that'll probably happen soon. Yeah.
I like the idea of launching out of your backyard. That's pretty rad.
It was super cool. And I was like, this is too nice to be able to go. And my dream was, I'm going to get to the beach and fly all the way up the coast and back to my house. And I never made it to the beach.
At least you made it back home, though.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Any books that you've read that you recommend?
Oh, The Art of Paragliding, I think it is. It's like very fundamental, but that is like the do all kind of, like, if you were, you know, stranded somewhere without an instructor, you could probably manage to teach yourself through that book and make it off the mountain.
Nice.
Bad idea. Get an
Bad idea.
Okay, don't take that advice. But
but in the case that you were stranded, and you just so happen to have a pair. By the way, I just want to put a shout out. Josh had his gear ripped off from his garage. And I know there's like 50 people watching right now live, and there'll be a whole bunch of people that are going to watch this video later. If you have anybody that tries to sell you paramotor or paraglider gear, post that stuff on Facebook, talk to your paraglider friends, and snitch those dudes out. I mean, that irks me so bad, because Ryan was telling me just before the show started that Josh bought his 777 King. Is that right? The 777 King?
Yeah, he finalized it. He hasn't bought it, but yeah.
That's the plan, because he had to, because someone jacked his gear.
And the homeowner's insurance does not cover anything aircraft related or that could potentially be used as an aircraft. This is what he told me. So basically his gear isn't covered by insurance, and that's like a $5,000 loss, if that.
Wow. Brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, we're a close, tight-knit family group of people. So we'll find it. What do you remember? I can't remember what Josh was flying.
He was flying in a Caro, I think it was green and white, and he had a pod harness.
Yeah, I remember his pod harness.
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll find out who it was. There is a cool story. One of the dudes was flying over at Mission Bay Park, and he left his wing, brand new wing, next to the car. He was talking to some people. He drives away. His motors and everything's in his van. He drives away, leaves the wing there. He was talking to some people. He gets home, realizes it's gone, shoots back down there, no avail. The next day, the people who he was talking to found him on Facebook and brought his wing to him. So there is some good people in the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah, brutal story. But this guy was defeated when that whole thing went down. I want to put a quick plug in. Go to paraglidingtalk.com and give me your email so that I can send you information about upcoming shows. I'm building an email list of pilots and prospective pilots. Also want to encourage you to go to the Patreon website and go and support this show financially if you can do it. I mean, for less than a cup of coffee, you're going to learn stuff on this show that may save your life. It's worth it. There's a handful of guys that are on there on the Patreon. It's simple. You go in, you log in. It's just like buying something off of eBay or something like that. You can use PayPal, all those things. And what it is you support, you pledge a monthly amount. If you want to pledge $1, you can do that. And every month, it will ding your account for $1 to help the show get going. I really want to push that you would do that. The more, like today, we could have been flying. Ryan, I'm sure could have still been in the air right now. Phil, likewise. I flew the other day. It was well after, like as soon as the sun set, I had to come and land, but we could have flew all night. But I want to do this show and I want to keep it rolling. And if as long as there's incentive to do that, I want to keep doing that. So go to the Patreon and support that. Really appreciate, by the way, I want to give a special shout out to all those guys that are on the Patreon supporting the show, coming to log in and check in. Look, we got Woody Gamer Tag in here. What's up, homie? Woody Gamer Tag. He's if you don't know his channel, go check out his channel. What did he say? Put the Patreon in the description. Is it not in the description?
Yeah, put it in the description. He says you just get more people looking at it.
I thought it was in the description. Let me see. Oh my gosh, it's not even in the description.
Thing, you know.
Yeah. Woody's got like literally 1 million followers on his channel.
More. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. Mark Amenson's in the chat too. What's up, homie? Hey, you got to, I sent you a link. You should come jump on with us before the show's over. We still got like 10 minutes. Woody, by the way, I got this microphone because you mentioned it to Neil. This is actually mine. I was using the mic from Nick Hawks. And so thanks for the encouragement, brother. So anyways, what an incredible thing that we can put a wing in a backpack, go hike up a mountain, or in Ryan, in my case, 4x up the mountain, and then go and fly for miles. This last season, Phil Russman flew, I think it was like 100 miles. What was it? More than that? 140 or something crazy with Bill Belcourt?
140.
140 miles at some point. He was so high at one point that there's no oxygen left in the air, and he's still just cruising right along, doing his thing. We talked about it on one of the other shows. You can go on the history and go watch the other episodes on that. It blows my mind. I'm so hooked on flying, and everyone will agree it is the absolute game. I can't look, guys. I can't even look at the sky the same anymore. Are you guys on the same page?
Yep.
Yeah.
You go outside and you go, Yeah. I wonder what the lapse rate's going to be like today. This looks like a day. You know what I'm saying? Like you see a hawk flying and you're like, yeah, he's in that thermal. Look at that one. Look at him. He's just in it.
I'm sharing my screen here. I don't know if you can see this this picture. Can you see the picture with the parahawking picture there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I was doing some video today of Dave Metzger's parahawking, and this business is getting ready to go live. He's going to be offering parahawking tandems where you can fly with these falcons. I know they call it parahawking, but these are falcons. And it's really a fantastic experience to be able to fly with these birds. As some of us know who have flown with wild birds, flying with a bird that comes and lands on you and then takes off and comes back again is really quite an experience. So
Phil's actually been the pilot for that. I think you've done both, haven't you?
Yep. I've been a passenger and a pilot, and today I was out shooting video.
Oh, that was video on that one?
Yeah, this is a frame grab from the video that was shot.
So you were really close too.
Yeah, that's really close.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I've seen those guys. I love Dave and his wife Antonella. They are really cool people. Super cool people. They're out at Torrey Pines. They have a great little thing going on over there. They got the cage. You can go bring the kids, show the birds. My boys love those birds. They don't even pay attention to me. I'm out there flying and they don't even care about me anymore. I'm old news. They're looking at the hawks. They're there with Antonella walking around. It's hilarious. Yeah.
Well, getting back to Ryan, Ryan, it's really been a lot of fun flying with you, and I look forward to doing more. And I think we're going to be learning a lot more about team flying. And I think that if you go back on the show again, maybe together, and we can talk about team flying during the entire show.
Yeah, I'm totally into it, Phil. I mean, we've had, like I said, some of my most epic flights have been with you, and just now talking about how we should have gone over the back from Palomar. I'm just thinking, okay, next week, tomorrow, maybe in the next month. That's the flight I want to do next.
Yeah, when the days are longer and we have more sun.
It's coming to a city near you. I like this new microphone. It sounds so good.
It sounds fantastic.
All right. Okay, I got one last question. Then we're going to take some questions from the chat. Okay. Glad that you're here on the chat, by the way. Appreciate all your chatting going on over there. My question is, if you could change one thing about the sport, what would it be? Maybe bad habits. Some guys have said things about attitude, so you can't say anything about that. What's your... if you could change one thing? Okay.
Man, I'd like to change like 3 things, but if I could pick one thing, it would, that's tough. Kind of the overall vibe that the paragliding community has is that we're doing something that's extremely dangerous, which it is. But motorcycle riding, motocross racing, mountain biking, all these other sports are just as inherently dangerous as paragliding. Driving, yeah. So I feel like there's a little bit too much scare and a little bit too much spook going on in the community. Like that's kind of something that bothers me. Or more like, oh no, we don't do that because 15 years ago this guy did that and it didn't end well. It's like, okay, like that's kind of the one thing that I think the changing the view of how we look at paragliding is not like this crazy wild thing. It's kind of, as extreme as you want to make it. And it's just like any other action sport where you can calculate the risk.
That's a great way to put it.
Woody Gamer 10, Woody says, I want to hear all 3. Bring it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So let's see. The first one was that. The second one it kind of goes hand in hand with that, a little bit more, acceptance from non-pilots. Like if I go, like we were just flying in Solana Beach today, And as soon as you pull the paraglider out, it's like there's 10 people looking at you, and 5 of them are going, you can't do that. And 5 of them are going, that's interesting. And then 3 of them are like, yeah, go for it. So there's like, you know, kind of the community police thing that goes on with paragliding, which is the same with motocross. You know, you take a dirt bike out in any suburb and it's not going to go over that well. But
yeah, did you know you can't ride dirt bikes on the golf course? No one told me.
Yeah, I feel like, and I like in Mexico, for instance, the way that the competition was organized and the way that the flying was kind of dealt with there, it was a lot different than it is here. And it was a lot more laid back, and it seemed more how it should be, and less kind of like we're doing something that's going to kill us all.
It's just like this hoity-toity kind of weird attitude. I used to, when I first started, I was kiting at this park, and this kid would yell from the skate park, and he would go, you have to get a permit. And I'm like, what the heck is that? It's in my videos. It's hilarious. And I'm thinking like, give me a break, man. I'm practicing paragliding in the park. It's a super safe area, whatever. But anyways, I remember punking that kid.
Now the third one would be more kids getting into it, more younger people, more kind of starting young and not thinking like, oh, that's something I can't do kind of thing. Kind of like any action sports, you know, surfing, mountain biking, dirt biking, you have all the people who are really, really good tend to start when they're young. And then but paragliding is different. You know, like some of the best people in the PWC are like 55 and old, like they're old guys. No offense.
Russman.
No offense, Phil. But just there's not a whole lot of kids flying at all, you know? So I try to help my friends get into it. Phil's helping my friends get into it, you know?
I love Phil. He's like Chuck Norris at paragliding.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, as long as I don't have to get in a fight.
We got you on that one.
Yeah, all the young kids will back you up. Don't worry, Phil.
That's right.
Yeah, you fight with your flight.
That's right. You know, I was 14 when I started. So
I didn't know that.
Really glad that I had a chance. It was just standard regalos back then, and never fly higher than you're willing to fall kind of thing. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for starting at a young age and having a modified program so that you can make some judgment decisions for the kids until they get old enough to make their own.
Carl asked Ryan if you're going to be in is it the PWC in Chilean, Washington?
Oh, I have no. If it's in the U.S., I plan on going, but I don't have like a date that I want to fly PWC, for instance. Like I think when I start doing that, which I want to do the whole series, like do every single one for the year. So, but if it's in Chilean, I definitely would love to go. I've heard only good things of that place, and I've heard it's insane and it's big, and I know last year, the year before, it was epic. So.
Yeah, I think Carl's from, I don't think he's from Boulder, but he's in Colorado somewhere. He's in the chat right now. He was one of the first guys.
Yeah. If it's the Carl I'm thinking of, we stay together in Valle.
Get out of here. Hold on.
If it's the same Carl.
He's a pilot. Let me just see if his name is in here. He might have logged off.
That's okay. I don't know his last name anyways.
It's right here. He just texted me. Anyways, super cool. Really appreciate you coming on, man. I'm looking forward to another flying season and seeing what's going on with this next year. So I'm coming up on my anniversary, my 1-year anniversary of flying, and I'm excited to learn some more, do some cross countries, get some more experience, and learn from you guys. I got a great somebody asked me a question the other day, and I commented, I'm surrounded by some really incredible pilots, and I'm excited what the future is going to bring. And so if you guys have any questions in the chat, this is your time. and I want to take those questions. Did you, Trey? Did you see anything that jumped out to you for questions?
No, I haven't seen anything else that we missed.
I saw Woody. He was talking about words hurt. I think we were talking about old guys.
Oh no offense there, Robert. I want to say thanks for having me though on the show. Super stoked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm super stoked on what you're doing in general and the layup and all my friends who are interested and want to start flying. I'm like, oh, you got to listen to this podcast. You got to listen to these ones. So I'm pumped on it.
Yeah. And so shout out to Ryan's group.
Yeah. Shout out to all my friends who are watching that aren't pilots too. Yeah,
that's rad. What Alan Though, he was on and he's a teacher and like half of his class was in the chat all poking at him and harassing him. Yeah. So what's next? What's on the agenda? Did we have any questions in there? Let me just make sure. What's next what's your big plans? Like, we want to break some more records here in SoCal and.
Well, the season's just starting, and it's not even supposed to have started yet, and it's been epic. So I'm stoked on that. I really want to do some more XC here, and then I'm excited about the rat race again. I guess it's not the rat race though; it's the Applegate Open now. So that'll be super fun.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah,
the people that ran it are just tired. They're kind of older, and they're retiring from doing it.
No, I think they're moving. I think that's what I think they moved maybe or something like that. But they're not doing it anymore, and it's going to be in the same place. Just the headquarters will be in a different location.
Epic. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about going to one of those.
So Ryan, one of the questions in the comments was, what are your favorite sites?
Yeah, I would say my favorite site is Blossom, and that's probably because it's 20 minutes from my house.
Don't tell them.
Yeah. And it's got like this microclimate thing about it, or just this micro weather thing about it. It just constantly kind of works. When it maybe shouldn't be that good, it's okay. And we can get over to El Cap and kind of get into a different layer. And there's always a possibility for a little cross country where most of the other sites, aren't that way. Palomar's kind of that way, but Blossom's convenient, easy, and we can 4x4 at the top.
Cool.
I love Blossom, bro. That's the best. Yeah. People have been flying there forever. I mean, they were literally like, that's where Russman started when he invented hang gliding.
Yeah, it's funny because I met a lady when I landed in Horse Canyon who gave me a ride to Pine Valley, and she used to live in Blossom Valley, and she said she lived there in 1976, and there used to be hang gliders that would land in her front yard.
Whoa, that's wild.
Yeah.
I love it. There's another question from Mark Amenson. He said, if I'm looking to do some paragliding learning on vacation in the U.S., where would you recommend?
Phil Russman has a pretty good school.
No, that's okay. No,
I knew that was coming.
But it depends a little bit on where you live, because if at all possible, if there's a good instructor in your neighborhood, there's a lot of reasons to learn from them, because then they'll indoctrinate you and familiarize you with all the local sites once you become a pilot. However, that's not always possible, and sometimes you need to travel to one of the great schools, and those schools are typically in Salt Lake City and Santa Barbara. In my opinion, those are the two focal points for learning paragliding in the United States.
Santa Croce School?
Yes, Chris Santa Croce at Superfly, and Rob Spohr, Eagle Paragliding in Santa Barbara. Those are the two biggest names in U.S. paragliding instruction.
Motor pilots longing to get some free flight time. Yeah,
well,
Mark.
I think what he's saying is there's just not a lot of free flight on the East Coast. Right?
Okay, so are we talking about a motor pilot transitioning into paragliding, or somebody?
Yeah.
scratch. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
Mark has a channel. Go check that out. Mark A. Minson.
well, it depends on where you are on the East Coast. There are some opportunities to do a transition course, on the East Coast, Morningside, paragliding and hang gliding up in New Hampshire. That might be a good place to do that. Of course, you got to do it at the right time of year because it is New Hampshire, New England. Yeah.
Buried in snow as we speak.
But the other option is you jump on a jet and go to Santa Barbara or Salt Lake and knock out a 2-day course. Should be able to do it in 2 days if you know how to kite well. And I think that would be a great way to do the transition and get everything you need in terms of equipment and instruction.
Mark, just come stay with us. We got a spare room. You just come stay at our house. You're fine. Just let me know when. He's got my number.
The community.
Yeah, bro. We're family. We're like brothers already. We interviewed Mark. He was on the show, one of the episodes. Great guy, great show. Yep. Yeah, free flight's amazing. I'm telling you. It is. So when I first came into the sport, and I know we're kind of going over, and if you guys got to bounce out, go for it. When I called Phil off the internet, and I'm like, oh, wow, this guy's got a 619 number. He must be local. So I call him. It just so happens that he answers. And I'm like, yes, my name is Robert, and I want to fly a paraglider. And I know I broke the rules, but I want to learn on my own, and I don't have any money. And Phil's like, yeah, okay, so don't die. I'm going to Hawaii. When I come back, I'll try to connect you with some of the guys.
If you're still alive.
If you're still alive, yeah. And he's like, what I recommend doing is get around some of the guys and try to talk to them and just give them rides. Don't fly. Just give them rides to the launch. And, something like that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And I'm like writing down, I literally was like piece of paper, everything he said. I'm like, okay, super nervous. I'm like, I heard about this guy. And so anyways, when he came back, we started talking, and before I know it, flying. Love it. I'll save this story.
That's a funny question, because I have people ask me that same thing, and then they get caught up on it costing kind of a decent amount of money and the gear, and then I see people who are like homeless pretty much, but somehow have managed to get training and get gear, and they fly. So and that's like a super big example of if there's a will, there's a way, and that's the will there.
Okay, now hold on. Those guys living in vans, they want to do that. Okay.
No. I'm not talking about the guys living in vans. I'm talking about like these guys. I've never seen a vehicle that they travel in. I just know they have a paragliding setup, and that's it.
I want to so badly name some people, but I'm not going to do it. That's so funny. They don't have a house, but yet they fly all the time.
It's the dream, baby.
It is.
I think what we should do sometime is put your first flight up on the.
No.
Yeah, you remember that?
Why would you do that?
Remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Well, it's okay now. We can talk about it because you lived.
Because I survived. Yeah.
Right, you survived.
Oh, my dad was so stoked. He's like, "That is amazing." I don't know if Dad's watching. He normally does. Dad, if you're watching, I love you, man. He'll chime in every once in a while in the chat and just say something, try to troll me. Like, Dad, don't be freaking trolling the chat over there. He just figured out how to use it. Look at that. I figured out a way to make fun of my son on the internet. Hey, you know what? I mentioned to some people, I slang my videos on the internet, literally on a website called steemit.com, and they pay me in cryptocurrency just to post stuff. And since I started flying, I posted just about every flight. It's steemit.com, STEEMIT.com. and you create an account, and like the next day you'll get an email confirmation. You put your phone number, and then you get an account. It's like a wallet. So my account's at like $3,500 right now, just from posting. That's comparable to USD. And anyways, I posted something like because you got to use clickbait. So I used clickbait when I posted your show on there. I have more followers on Steemit than I do on YouTube. And anyways, they're probably all watching right now. The hook was that you're related to somebody famous.
That's true.
Yeah,
It's funny that it pulled it up. So my grandpa is Jimmy Durante, who is a singer comedian from back in the day, and it's funny it pulled up because that's not my last name, obviously, but the street in Del Mar that goes around the racetrack is Jimmy Durante Boulevard. He's probably before your time, my time, everyone's time, but yeah, he was an actor, comedian, singer guy.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, so that was I almost forgot to put that in. That was the clickbait for people to watch the show. So they probably watched the whole show. Now you got your answer. And I knew that it was Jimmy Durant, and so that's it. But anyways,
here's a shot of him, just in case you were wondering who this guy is and what he looks like.
Mother was adopted, just a heads up.
My mom was adopted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I don't resemble him very much.
We might be brothers. Just putting it out there.
Never know.
We both like to fly paragliders.
Hey, we're Sky Brothers.
We're Sky Brothers. You know what I'm saying? What is Woody on? Are you on Skype, Woody? You got a secret you want to share with us? Woody Gamertag on steemit.com. Well, I guess we'll find out in the future. Unless there's any other questions, we're going to wrap it up. Really, I don't want to turn it off every time, every year. Hey, baby. Every year every show, it's like we get to the 1 hour mark and I'm like, well, I'm kind of not done yet. Woody, you're on, are you on steemit.com? If you are, just leave your handle. Most people, I'm interested to know now if he's on there. That's crazy if he is. Okay, never mind. What's that? Yeah, we're live. Okay, so by the way, thank you again. Go support the show on the Patreon. Go to the website, paraglidingtalk.com, so you can find out what next shows that are coming up. By the way, I locked down, and this is just a little bait and switch for you to come back. Not next week, but the following week, we're going to have Aviator PPG on the show. Nailed him down. So I stalked him. Yeah, I stalked him, and I got to get my paramotor guys some love, because we've had, 4 free flight guys on here in a row. And so got to keep that rolling. And who do you want me to say hi to?
Jim. I saw Jim.
Jim?
You're
talking about Phil?
Phil. Why do I call him Jim?
Phil Russman. Mom says hi.
How you doing, Mom?
Right on. Well, we're going to have just a quick after show. What I've been thinking about doing is maybe making it for the Patreon supporters that do $20 or more a month to be able to come hang out with us in the after show. So really appreciate you. Russman, Ryan, Trey, really appreciate you guys. Next week, Thursday, 6 p.m. Be there, be square. Really appreciate everybody. You guys have a great night. Thanks for stopping by, Woody. We're going to get you on the show, bro. We need you.
Yeah, secretly come on, join us, Woody, baby.
Woody said he was secretly hoping for it. I would if
he'd be a great guest.
I know.
Those guys flying down there are they look like a lot of fun. All of them.
I was watching his video, drinking my shake just before the show, and he just put that video out, and he's flying a pretty hot wing, doing some sats, making it like literally commentating in a sat. Oh yeah, see, oh, this is kind of chill. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, that's good. Let's switch. Did you watch that? Did you guys see that? He just let it go today. I'm like, are you serious? Dude, when I'm in a sat, I'm like, ah! or my video of the sad, because I didn't know what I was doing. Okay, I'm for real this time. You guys have a great night.